But we don't know anyone by the name of Helen. So the people who are sitting, almost 5 boats are there, and all the people are sitting in pairs there. So everywhere, from all the boats, so there is a word telling that the people are asking for the narrator. A person is asking for the narrator, and the person's name they refer it as Helen. So listening to this, these people, means the narrator and narrator's wife, they were shocked because they don't know anyone named Helen. So this is the reason they are telling that, but we don't know anyone by the name of Helen. They said that they don't know any person by the name of Helen. Lavinia stopped and began to look at me through narrowed lids, much as she had done in the library the evening before. See here, as you all very well know, that the ladies will be a bit jealous. So that's the reason why a narrator got frightened, because for the first time when the ghost got appeared in the room where narrator is there, narrator doesn't want his wife to see the ghost. So in that scene somehow he escaped. He is able to escape from that scene. But now what is happening here, as everybody is calling the narrator, telling that a ghost named Helen is asking for the narrator. So listening to this, Lavinia, she got very angry and she is looking in a different way towards her husband. And then from different parts of the room, other manipulators began to report. Every plot, one of those 5 boats was calling me by name. I felt my ears grow crimson, purple. So here from everywhere in the room, everyone is calling for one person. He is none other than our narrator. He is not able to understand. He is in a position, complete dilemma. He is unable to understand what to do. Everybody is calling his name. So his eyes, he felt as if his ears grow crimson, purple, maroon. My wife was looking at me as though I were some peculiar insect. So she is looking at him in a very different way, in a different look. The squeak of oar boats and the murmur of conversation rose louder and louder, and then I felt my face twitch in the spasm at the idiotic grin. I tried to straighten my writhed features into their usual semblance of humanity. I tried, and as you all very well know, the narrator, he had a drawback. Whenever he is under tension, there is a nerve which drags one side of his mouth, so that it appears an idiotic grin, idiotic laugh on his face. So in this tension, as everybody is calling his name and his wife is becoming so serious, so he is getting that grin and he is trying to control his emotions like anything. Doesn't he look sly? Said Miss Henkel. And then I got up and fled from the room. So he did not understand what to do in that situation. So to get rid of this all people and the situation, he got up and went out of the room. I do not want to know. I went straight upstairs and undressed and crawled into bed and lay there in a burning dark while the last guest girl in the hall below about the wonderful evening she had spent. So here, after leaving the room, even he is not interested to pay any attention what is happening there in the room. So after going into his room, after leaving this place and going into his room, he undressed, crawl means he went into the bed and laid nicely until the last guest. Before the last guest leaving also, she is very vigorously, seriously discussing about the experience what she had that evening. So until the last guest leave the place, he laid there itself on the bed. I lay there while the front door shut after her, and Lavinia's steps came up the stairs and passed the door to the guest room beyond. And then after a couple of centuries elapsed, the clock struck 3 and I dozed off to sleep. So finally, when the last guest went away, Lavinia closed the door and she went to the guest room, and after some time this man went into sleep. So he is conscious until the last person leave their house. Until then he knew after some time the clock struck 3 o'clock and finally he went to bed. At the breakfast table the next morning, there was no sign of my wife. So the next morning, see, the previous night ended very horribly for the narrator. So he understood that his wife got angry on him, and he did not give any chance for her to express her views, and he also tried to escape from his wife. But the next day morning, he is searching for his wife at the breakfast table, but he did not find her there. I concluded she was sleeping late, but Gladolia, upon being questioned, only shook her head, muttered something, and turned the whites of her eyes up to the ceiling. I was glad when the meal was over and hurried to the library for another try at that story. So finally, he is trying to inquire from the servant maid about his wife. He concluded, as he did not see his wife there near the dining table, he concluded that as she has gone bed very late the previous night, she might be sleeping. So he tried to inquire from the servant maid, but he did not get the relevant answer. After completing the breakfast, he went to the library once again. He sat and tried to write the story. I had hardly seated myself at the desk when there came a tap at the door and a white slip of paper slid under it. I unfolded it and read. So when he was sitting there and trying to write the story, when he is trying to recollect all his ideas and trying to write the story, at that time he saw one paper flying there, and he opened the paper to see what is there in it. So in the paper it is written like this: Dear John, I am going back to my grandmother. My lawyer will communicate with you later. So what is there in the letter there? It is addressed, the letter is addressed to Mr. John, and it is written by, so the words are here like this in the letter: I am going to my grandmother. So the letter, the lady who wrote, she is telling that I am going to my grandmother's house and my lawyer will communicate with you that what we are going to do further. Oh, I cried. Oh, I wish I was dead. So John, what's the fear he had about what he frightened? The same thing happened. This is the letter written by John's wife. So he is feeling as if he is dead there. He did not like what happened. And that's exactly what you ought to be, said that horrible voice from the other end of the room. See here comes the ghost again. The ghost got reappeared again. And what the ghost is telling from the other end of the room, the ghost is telling like this: that's exactly what you ought to be. So exactly what you should face, the same thing happened to you. Some words, some voice is coming from one side of the room. Said that horrible voice from the other end of the room. From the other end of the room, one horrible voice came telling that what should happen to you, exactly the same thing happened. It's very good. Like that, the horrible voice mentioned there. I sat up abruptly, means very quickly, unwantedly he sat there. I had sunk into a chair under the blow of the letter. Then I dropped back again and my hair rose in a thick prickle on the top of my head. Coming majestically across the floor towards me was a highly polished pair of thick glazed shoes. I stared at them in a sort of dreadful fascination, and then something about their gait attracted my attention and I recognized them. So he did not like what is there in the letter. Listening to the voice again, finally abruptly all of a sudden he sat back in the chair and left the letter which is there in his hand, and then he is able to see something slowly which is got appearing there, starting from the shoes, from the feet, something is started appearing there. See here, I said sternly. What do you mean by appearing here like this? So again, see here, what is the meaning? Why are you appearing like this here once again? Is a question arised now. I can't help it, said the voice. So the voice which is coming from one side, as this man is totally under tension, under pressure, as if his wife is going to leave him and go forever. This man is feeling very bad. The voice is telling from one side, I can't help it, I can't help you in any of the way, which seemed to come from a point about 5.5 feet above the shoes. See, by this time the voice is coming, but the appearance of the ghost is not completed. He is able to see the shoes only, and the voice is coming almost 5 to 5.5 feet above from the shoes. I raised my eyes and presently distinguished her round protrude mouth. So he raised from the shoes, he raised his eyes, and finally is able to see the mouth of the ghost from which the voice is coming out. Why can't you? A nice way to act, to walk in sections. So why can't you help me? A nice way you are walking, sections wise you are appearing. Why can't you help me in this matter? If you'll give me time, said the mouth in an exasperated voice, I assure you the rest of me will presently arrive. But what's the matter with you? You never acted this way before. She seemed stung to make a violent effort for a portion of a fishy eye, and the end of her nose popped into view with a suddenness that made me jump. So he is questioning, previously you have never arrived like this. Slowly, all as a person you came out and I used to talk, but what happened this time? So why are you coming like this? The narrator questioned the ghost. Slowly, one part after another part, finally, and the nose popped out, and which created a sort of sudden excitement to the narrator. It's all your fault. She glared at me while part of her hair and her plaid skirt began slowly to take form. So here the ghost is criticizing the narrator, telling that it is all your part. When the ghost is telling like this, slowly her skirt and the remaining parts started appearing. My fault. Of course, how can you keep a lady up working all night and then expect her to retain all her faculties the next day? I am just too tired to materialize. So here the ghost is criticizing the narrator, telling that it is all your fault. So then the narrator is asking how it will be his fault. The ghost is telling like this, why have you left the lady through all night working out on her own thoughts? It's very difficult to materialize, because what he did, the narrator, the last night, as he knew that his wife is upset, he did not try to convince her. He just left her and he went to bed. So because of, as he couldn't convince her the whole night, she was working on the same thoughts, and finally she has taken this decision. This is the explanation given by the ghost to the narrator. Then, why did you bother? Because I was sent to ask when your wife is going to get rid of that Oza board. So why do you bother about her? And so why do you bother about my wife? The narrator asked. So the ghost is telling that again she was sent here to ask the narrator when his wife is going to get rid of the Oza board. As we all very well know that the ghost already mentioned to the narrator, telling that he should not allow any of his friends or the people whom you know not to use that Oza board. So, but his wife only started using. That's why the ghost was sent to him again to inquire when his wife is going to get rid of that Oza board. How should I know? I wish to heaven I would never seen you. I cried, look what you have done. You have lost me my wife. You have lost me my home and happiness. You have. So here he is telling, how would I know? How can I tell you when my wife will get rid of the Oza board? It is you. Because of you, I lost my wife, my happiness, my everything. You are the reason for everything. The narrator started blaming the ghost now. Mr. Hallock came from the hall outside. Mr. Hallock, I Gwen, I quit. I don't like no hoodoos, and the steps retreated. You have lost me my cook. I didn't come here to be abused, said the ghost coldly. And then the door opened and Lavinia entered. She wore the brown hat and coat she usually travels in and carried a suitcase which she sat down on the floor. So here the narrator is directly abusing the ghost, and the ghost is telling that I did not come here to receive abuses from you. I have come here. She is telling something. Meanwhile, Lavinia came there in the dress generally means usually she wears whenever she travels. She came there with a suitcase and she sat there. The suitcase had an air of solid finality about it, and its lock leered at me bracely. I leaned from my chair with unaccustomed agility and sprang in front of my wife. I must conceal that awful phantom from her at any risk. She did not look at me or thank heaven behind me, but fixed her injured gaze upon the wastebasket as if to wrench dark secrets from it. I have come to tell you that I am leaving, she stack-toned. So here the lady Lavinia, as she got very angry on her husband, she came there telling that she is going to leave him. She took one suitcase, and along with that suitcase she is about to leave the house and leave a narrator and go from that place. As she got very upset the last night and this man did not try to convince her, finally she has come to a conclusion to leave the narrator and go forever to her grandmother's house. Oh, yes, yes, I agreed, flapping my arms about to attract attention from the corner. That's fine, great. So this man, even though he is tensed, even though he doesn't like his wife to leave his house and go, right away when she is telling that she is going forever, he agreed. The narrator is telling like this, oh, yes, yes, I agreed, flapping my arms about to attract attention from the corner. So what is he trying there? He wanted to attract the attention from the corner, expecting that the ghost will hide. He doesn't want the lady, his wife, to see the ghost. That's why he wanted to send his wife from that place to get rid that she should not see the ghost. So you want me to go, do you? She demanded. So wife, what is she expecting there? As she said that she is leaving the house and going, she is expecting her husband to request her not to go. Instead of that, this man readily accepted and telling that it's better you go. So again she is asking, so you want me to go? She demanded, telling, yeah, really, is it real that you want me to go? Sure, yes, right away. Change of air will do you good. So what the man is telling, yes, right away you better go. It's good if the air gets changed, it will change your mood also. It's good you go right away. I'll join you presently. If only she would go till Helen could depart. So what is he telling? Okay, now you go, I'll join you. So what is his actual intention? If he make his wife move from that place till the Helen gets disappeared. After that, anyhow, he will run back of her and he will please her. Keeping that in his mind, he's asking her to move from that place. I would have the devil of a time explaining afterward, of course, but anything would be better than to have Lavinia see a ghost. Why, that sensitive little woman couldn't bear to have a mouse say boo at her, and what would she say to a ghost in her own living room? So here what is he thinking in his mind? He's telling that okay, afterwards somehow I'll tell something and I'll convince Lavinia, but he doesn't want Lavinia to see the ghost in his living room, in her living room. Lavinia cast a cold eye upon me. You are acting very cruelly. She sniffed. You are concealing something from me. So Lavinia understood why this man is behaving like this. She got a doubt. That's why she is telling that you are acting very differently towards me. And she also understood that this man is trying to hide something from his wife. She understood. See here the sentence. You are concealing something from me. Concealing means keeping me away. You are trying to keep something away from me. You are trying to hide something from me. Just then the door opened and Gladolia called, Miss Hallock, I have come to tell you I see Dunn left this place. My wife turned her head a moment, but why Gladolia? I ain't staying round no place long with Dame Ovza board contraptions, I see it of Hodu's eyes done gone is. So as you know, the slang of the servant maid is entirely different. She's telling that she want to leave the place and go from there. My wife turned her head a moment, but why, Gladolia? Is that all you have got to complain about? Lavinia inquired. Yes, ma'am. All right then, go back to the kitchen. You can use the board for kindling wood. So finally, Lavinia, the servant maid, gave the complaint, and finally Lavinia accepted, and she said that she can use this Ovuza board for firewood. Oh, me touch that thing. No ma'am, never. I'll be the coon to burn it, I shouted. I'll be glad to burn it. So this man felt very happy as the wife accepted to burn the Ovuza board. She got angry. See what happened? She expected something else and she purchased the Ovuza board at a discount at a bargaining shop. But that thing, it is not happen. So out of anger, she asked the servant maid to burn the Ovuza board. This man felt very happy. Even the narrator also wants the same. So he is telling that I will burn the board. Gladolia heavy steps moved off kitchenward. So after receiving this, Gladolia said that okay, she went back to kitchen. Then my Lavinia turned waspishly to me again. John, there is not a bit of us trying to deceive me. What is it you are trying to conceal from me? So again she came back. She did not leave the incident what happening previously. Already Lavinia understood that the narrator is trying to hide something from her. Now again directly she questioned her husband. Tell, what is he trying to hide from her? Oh, me? Oh no. I lied elaborately, looking around to see if that dratted ghost was concealed enough. She was so big and I am rather a smallish man, but that was a bad move on my part. So he is telling openly, he is lying to his wife, observing around the room whether the ghost is totally hidden or not. With one eye he is observing around the room and he is directly lying to his wife. John, Lavinia demanded like a ward boss. You are hiding somebody in here. Who is it? I only waved Daniel and gurgled in my throat. She went on. It's bad enough to have you foot over the Ovuza board with that hussy. Oh, the affair was quite above board, I assure you, my love, I cried, leaping lithely, about to keep her from focusing her gaze behind me. So she understood. Finally, the narrator's wife mentioned that you are trying to hide someone here. The matter is not up to Ovuza boards, it is above Ovuza board. Who is that you are hiding here? So when she posed such a question, the narrator, he couldn't understand, he did not understand what to answer. So swallowing his throat, he is trying to say some lie, he is trying to lie something to his wife, but still. So this lady is questioning him directly, telling that, oh, the affair was quite above the board. It is not about the Ovuza board. The affair is quite above that. I assure you, my love. She is telling that, of course I love you. You don't hide anything from me. You can reveal the exact truth to me. I cried, leaping lithely, about to keep her from focusing her gaze behind me. So this man is telling that, I love you. Nothing is there like that. I am not hiding anything, and he is trying to hide the sight of his wife from the corners of the room, so that she should not see the ghost. She thrust me back with sudden muzzle. I will see who is behind you. Where is that Helen? So he is trying to hide something, so that the lady should not see what is hiding behind him. But this lady telling to the man that, let me see who is hiding behind you. Is that the Helen who is hiding behind you? Me, I am Helen, came from the ghost. When this discussion is going on between both of them, suddenly the ghost came forward, telling that, I am Helen. Lavinia looked at that apparition, that oval-eyed phantom, in plaid skirt and stiff skirt waist, with hair squeaked back and no powder on her nose. I threw a protecting husbandly arm about her to catch her when she should faint, but she didn't swoon. A bored, satisfied smile spread over her face. See here, the ghost came out, but this narrator got frightened like anything. Now he understood that this lady is going to faint seeing that ghost. But it is just ironical. It is the thing happened there is totally opposite what the narrator was thinking. Seeing the lady, narrator's wife had smile on her face. I thought you were Helen of Troy, she murmured. So what this lady is thinking that? She is thinking that it is the lady who is the real Helen of Troy. I used to be Helen of Troy, New York, said the ghost. And now I'll be moving along if you will excuse me. See you later. So now the ghost, it is not the real human being. She is not that beautiful also to look at. The ghost telling like that, I used to be the Helen of New York, telling like that, if you excuse me, I'll move from this place. With that, she telescoped briskly till we saw only her hand waving farewell. So telling like that, again the ghost got disappeared from that place. My Lavinia fell forgivingly into my arms. I kissed her once or twice fervently, and then I showered her aside. For I felt a sudden strong desire to write. The sheets of paper on my desk spread inevitably before me. I have got the bulliest plot for a ghost story, I cried. Finally, see, there is a initially the narrator was thinking that it will become a tragedy, but when the lady saw the ghost, she understood that it is not the real Ellen, and she understood what the mistake she had done, and they both came together, and finally the narrator got a ghost story, and when he got the mind of writing the story, so he took some papers and started writing his story. But my dear madam, I assure you I have had nothing to do with that. I hope I am properly grateful and all that you see. Oh, it isn't you, she explained patronizingly. It's those Ouija board. So here, as you know very well, we are seeing the discussion between the narrator and one lady who appeared all of a sudden there, and already the narrator understood that it is none other than a ghost. So the ghost explained so many things about the strike, what they are going to conduct and all. This man clearly stated that he is no way connected to that. And here now the lady started explained. So what is she explaining here? She patronizingly means supporting in a narrow-minded. So the lady is supporting that in a narrow-mindedness, supporting with a patronizingly she is supporting. It's those Ouija board. So I think to what extent you students know about Ouija board. So how many of you have played the spirit game? I don't know, but if you have such experience, people will sit with a board where they'll put one coin and they'll put the fingers on the coin and they will move the coin towards the alphabets what all written on the board. The words what they pick up, they feel that it is a message given by the spirit to them. So this game is played on a board named Ouija board. Fanatics. So there was a time when we had nothing much to occupy us and used to haunt a little on the side purely for amusement. So when these ghosts, when these spirits have nothing to do, they simply used to haunt. Haunt means going here and they are going to a particular place without any break. They used to do that only because of amusement, means for the purpose of entertainment. We have had to give up haunting almost entirely. We sit at a desk and answer questions now. So now what the spirit is telling, what the ghost, previously they used to hunt here and there, means they used to roam here and there for the purpose of amusement. But now these ghosts have also become very busy. They are sitting in one place near a desk and they started answering the questions asked by different people. And such questions, she shook her head hopelessly and taking off her glasses wiped them and put them back on her nose again. So she is telling, see, she is giving expressions also here, the ghost, not simply talking. See, I think many of you have the habit of watching movies. Do you watch movie? So generally, if you have the habit of watching movie, just imagine any scene from your favorite movie where a doctor is coming out of an operation theater and expressing their regret. What they will do generally in the movies, how they will show, just the doctor will remove the spectacles, by cleaning their spectacles slowly they will express their view about the patient, whether it is hopefulness or hopelessness. Here also the ghost, so what is the expression she is giving here? She is telling that we'll answer the questions of different people sitting near a desk. She, while telling about this, she removed her specs and she started cleaning the specs and she was telling we'll answer such questions. She gave a great expression there while mentioning about different types of questions they answer. But what have I got to do with this? She gave me a pitying look and rose. So she removed her specs by cleaning. She said different types of questions we answer. Telling like that, she kept her specs again on the nose. And this man questioned her. What did he question? But what have I got to do with this? So the man is asking, what should I do with that? What is your job? Why are you telling me? Why are you explaining me? What am I going to do with your job? This is a very big question what the man got on his mind. And he is asking the lady, what should I do with your job? What am I going to do with your job? She gave me a pitying look and rose. So she gave a pitiful look towards the man when he questioned like this. You ought to exert your influence. Get all your friends and acquaintances to stop using the Ouija board and then we'll start helping you to write. So immediately she's telling, she gave one advice to the man. What did she say? You ought to exert. What is the meaning of the word exert here? E-X-E-R-T. Exert means put. So you have to put your influence. You should use your influence. So for what purpose this man is supposed to use his influence? Get all your friends and acquaintances to stop using the Ouija board. So she is telling that you call all your friends and even the acquaintance means the people whom you know very well. Ask them to stop using the Ouija board and then we'll start helping you to write. So this lady has asked a favor to the man. What is she asking? You do one favor to us. The people who are calling using the Ouija board, ask them not to call us. As we are becoming very busy, because whenever they call we have to come to that place, we have to roam, we have to haunt that place. So if no one call us using the Ouija board, we will be sitting in one place near a desk and we will start answering the questions asked by different people. So the help what you have to do is to ask all your friends and acquaintance, means the people whom you know very well, to stop using the board. Then simultaneously I will help you in your writing. This is the proposal kept by the lady ghost to the narrator. But there was a footstep outside my door. So when the lady is telling like that, all of a sudden the narrator heard some footsteps outside the door. That means he heard that someone is coming towards the room. John, oh John, called the voice of my wife. So who is coming towards the room? It is none other than the wife of the narrator. So how is she coming? Calling John, oh John. I waved my arms at the ghost with something of the motion of a beginner when learning to swim. So immediately, you know very well, see here the ghost is a lady. Only the narrator and ghost are there in the room. And who is coming towards the room there? The narrator's wife. And the narrator doesn't want his wife to see one lady in his room. That's why immediately he started waving the hand towards the ghost, asking her to hide somewhere. So he is waving. The comparison happened here. The way he waves his hand is compared to the person, the beginner who is learning to swim. Initially, when you are learning to swim, how you try to wave your hands. In the same way, this man also waved his hand as if he is a beginner of a swimming. He is a beginner to learn the swimming. Like that, he waved his hand towards the ghost, just indicating her to hide herself. Why the narrator want the lady ghost to hide here? Because as his wife is coming over there, and he doesn't want his wife to see one more lady in his room. Madam, I must ask you to leave and at once. Consider the impression if you were seen here. So immediately after the signal, he started directly asking the lady to disappear from that place right once, immediately. And he doesn't want anyone to see this lady there in his room. The ghost nodded and began very sensibly. I thought to demobilize and evaporate. First, the brogans on her feet grew misty until I could see the floor through them. Then the affection spread to her knees and gradually extended upward. By this time, my wife was opening the door. So what happened? When this man requested the lady ghost to disappear, the ghost nodded her head. She accepted and began. So she started disappearing. As you know very well, how she appeared there. All of a sudden she did not appear. Part-wise she appeared there. Means all the body parts did not come at a time. Slowly, first one few parts of her body appeared, next few parts, like that part-wise she appeared there. Now also disappearing also started in the same way. I thought to demobilize and evaporate. Means he thought that to dissolve, to evaporate completely. First the brogans, means the ankles will disappear. On her feet grew misty until I could see the floor through them. So on her feet the mist got appeared as it became very transparent, that he is able to see the floor through his feet, through her feet. Then the affection, means here affection means condition, state of being affected. Spread to her knees, means slowly from the feet the effect, means the way of disappearing came near her knees and gradually extended upwards, means from bottom slowly she started disappearing. By this time my wife was opening the door. So how is he explaining the disappearance of the lady ghost there? From downward slowly she started disappearing, and when this disappearance moved towards, up, in up direction, by that time already the narrator's wife came near and she is about to open the door. Don't forget the strike, she repeated, while her lower jaw began to disintegrate, and as my Lavinia crossed the room to me and last vestige of her ear faded into space. So before getting disappeared, the ghost, she asked the man not to forget about the strike, and slowly her face also got disappeared. By this time the narrator's wife, and what is the name of the narrator mentioned here? It is my Lavinia. Lavinia is the name of the narrator's wife. She entered the room. By the time she entered, so everything got disappeared into space. John, why in the world are you sitting in the dark? So the wife immediately after entering into the room, she questioned her husband, why are you sitting in the dark at this time? Because see, he did not switch on the light. It is already mentioned at the beginning of the story that he did not switch on the light. This lady appeared, and from then onwards he got involved in the discussion with the ghost lady. So he is sitting in the dark as this lady, means the narrator's lady, came there into the room. She did not find any other person there. She saw only her husband. So she questioned him. What did she question? John, why in the world are you sitting in the dark? She questioned John, why are you sitting all alone in the dark like this? Just thinking, my dear. So when his wife entered the room and questioned him what in the world made him sit all alone in the dark, he just gave a reply to his wife telling that he is just sitting and thinking something. Thinking? Rubbish. You were talking out loud. So here this lady is so alert. So she is telling, thinking? Rubbish? Don't lie to me. I heard you talking aloud. I remained silent while she lit the lamps, thankful that her back was turned to me. So this man, he knew that he was talking aloud and he knew that he is talking to a lady and he doesn't want his wife to know that. So he remained calm. He did not give any reply, because as his wife had already heard that this man is talking, so that confidently she mentioned that this man is talking loud in the room, sitting all alone. So he don't want to create it as a problem. That's why he remained calm and he is thanking God that the wife stood her back towards this man so that she cannot see the facial expressions of the narrator. When I am nervous or excited, there is a muscle in my face that starts to twitch, and this pulls up one corner of my mouth and gives the appearance of an idiotic grin. So far, I had managed to conceal this affliction from Lavinia. So this man had a problem, the narrator. So whenever he is so excited or nervous, there is a muscle in his face which pulls one side of his mouth, so that it gives a different idiotic grin. Grin means it's a smile. Laughing foolishly is a grin which won't look good, means for the people, other people to look into his face, it won't look. Until then he was trying to conceal, hide this nature, means this behavior what he had from his wife, and now he had fear. So that's why he's thanking God so that his wife is turning to other side. You know, I bought the loveliest thing this afternoon. Everybody is wild over them. So the wife is telling, as it is already mentioned by the narrator earlier, that she has a habit of purchasing everything. She spends money lavishly for purchasing all the new things what all appear in the market. So the same nature we can see here. What the narrator's wife is mentioning here, she is telling, you know, I bought the loveliest thing this afternoon. She is telling, see, whatever she purchased, that is the loveliest thing for her. She likes it very much. That's why she spends money on unnecessary things also in the point of view of her narrator. But that lady, she will never consider like that. So she is mentioning that she has purchased a loveliest thing. Everybody is wild over them. She is also mentioning that everybody likes this thing very much. I remembered her craze for taking up new fads, and a premonitory chill crept up the back of my neck. As this man is very well versed with the nature of the lady, he understood. It isn't. I began and stopped. I smiled, couldn't ask. The possibility was too horrible. You would never guess in the world. It's the duckiest, darlingest Ouija board, and so cheap I got it at a bargain sale. Why? What's the matter, John? So this man, he doesn't want to go into any sort of argument with his wife, but she is not stopping. She's going on telling. She's telling that she has purchased a Ouija board for at the cheaper rate. I felt things slipping. Now he understood. See what happened, the previous lady ghost, the lady spirit, what is it asking him? Not to use the Ouija board and not to allow any of his friend and the people whom he knew very well, make them not to use the Ouija board. But what his wife is telling here, that she has purchased the board as she is getting it for the cheaper rate. Nothing, I said. and looked around for the ghost. Suppose she had lingered and upon hearing what my wife had said should suddenly appear. Like all sensitive women, Lavinia was subject to hysterics, means sudden outburst of emotions. This man, he got fear. He started fearing as if by listening to the words said by his wife, is the ghost came back, means reappeared. So he is looking around to see whether he can see the ghost again, because already the ghost gave a warning to him not to use the boat, and his wife came there and she mentioned about the same boat there. But you looked so funny. I always do when I am interesting. I gulped. But don't you think that was a foolish thing to buy? So finally he was dare enough to mention that it is a foolish thing to buy such a boat. Foolish? Oh John, foolish. And after me getting it for you. For me? What do you mean? So she is telling, foolish? Why are you considering it as a foolish? I purchased the Ouija board for you. So this narrator did not understand now. For me? For what purpose you have purchased? In what way I can use the board? Is a question arised in the mind of the narrator. To help you write your stories. See how concerned the wife is. She knew that her husband is a great writer and he will be suffering a lot whenever he writes the new story. So to help him, she purchased this board. Now she is explaining the reason behind her purchasing the Ouija board. Why, for instance, suppose you wanted to write an historical novel, you wouldn't have to wear your eyes out over those musty old books in the public library. All you would have to do would be to get out your Ouija and talk to Napoleon or William the Conqueror or Helen of Troy. Well, maybe not Helen. Anyhow, you would have all the local color you would need, and without a speck of trouble. And think how easy writing your short stories will be. Now see how concerned the wife is. She is telling that why she has purchased that Ouija board. She is giving an advice to her husband, telling that next time whenever you sit to write historical stories, no need to run your eyes to the musty old books to collect the essence of the stories. Instead of doing that, you just take out the board, Ouija board, and call some great conqueror or some king, and from them you collect the story and you can write your stories very easily without any problem. That is the reason why I purchased this board for you. See how smart is the narrator's wife. Very apt explanation she gave, and the reason behind purchasing the Ouija board is very apt in her point of view. But Lavinia, you surely don't believe in Ouija's boards. So he is telling that how can you believe such things? You shouldn't believe such board. I don't know, John. They are awfully thrilling. So she is telling that no, they are really greatly. So much of thrill is there behind the board. She had seated herself on the arm of my chair and was looking dreamily across the room. I started and turned around. There was nothing there. I sank back with relief. So far, so good. So telling like this, she sat on the arm of a chair and she was looking around the room. Immediately this man got frightened. He also looked around the room thinking that if the ghost had reappeared or not. And when he observed that no one else is there in the room, he also took some comfort. He also got relaxed. Oh, certainly, they are thrilling all right. That's just it. They are a darn sight too thrilling. They are positively devilish. No, Lavinia, you have plenty of sense and I want you to get rid of that thing just as soon as you can. Take it back and get something else. So now he got relaxed and he is trying to convince his wife. As you all very well know that this man, he doesn't want to use that Ouija board, considering the instructions what he received from the lady ghost. So what is he telling now? Oh, certainly they are thrilling. Alright, he also accepted. He is just pretending as if he has gone into his wife's way. So he said, yes, it is thrilling. That's just it. They are darn sight too thrilling. He is telling that yes, it is very much thrilling. The sight of the board itself is very much thrilling. They are positively devilish. Means it is so of devilish, means devil type things what they will do. Now Lavinia, you have plenty of sense. I want you to get rid of that thing. So he is telling, so you are a sensible person, you have plenty of sense. So now what I want you to do, you should get rid of that Ovuza board. Take it back and get something else. So he gave a suggestion to his wife, telling that you return the board back to them and take something else instead of that Ovuza board. My wife crossed her knees and stared at me through narrowed lids. John Hallock, she said distinctly, I don't propose to do anything of the kind. So she got a bit of anger. So she got angry and she's telling that, John Hallock, I'm not going to do anything what you are telling me. In the first place, they won't exchange things bought at a bargain sale, and in the second, if you aren't interested in the other world, I am. So she gave two reasons why she doesn't want to exchange the board. The first reason what she mentioned here, the place where bargain things are sold, they don't take it back. Means there is no question of exchanging the bargained things. And the other thing is, she is telling to her husband, if you are not interested in the other world, I am very much interested. So there, and she slid down and walked from the room. Before I could think of a single thing to say, she walked very huffily. Huffily means in a bad temper. So here the word. So huffily means the word gives in a bad temper. She moved from the room with a bad temper. So she did not give any chance to her husband to think and say a single sentence. She said what she had in her mind, and she moved from that place in a bad temper. Well, it was like that all the rest of the evening. Just as soon as I mentioned Ovuza boards, I felt things began to cloud up. So I decided to let it go for the present, in the hope that she might be more reasonable later. So that evening, the whole evening, they were in that mood only. He did not mention anything. He said, okay, let the things go on. After some time, she can understand, she can think in a reasonable way. Considering like that, he remained calm. After supper, I had another try at the writing, but as my mind continued a perfect blank, I gave it up and went off to bed. So after the supper is the last meal of a day, evening time they will take, so the people will have their supper. After the supper, he sat again to write something, but his mind is totally blank, that he did not get any new idea. Finally, he gave up the task of writing and he went to bed. The next day was Saturday, and it began near the end of the month and a particularly busy day. I left home early without seeing Lavinia. Understand, I haven't quite reached the point where I can give my whole time to writing and being bookkeeper for a lumber company does help with the grocery bills and pay for Lavinia's fancy shopping. So as the next day is a Saturday, Fridays they will have only half days. This man is working with a lumber company, means it's a timber. So he is working as a bookkeeper in a timber company. So he will get, means at least the money what he earns, he can pay the bills of Lavinia, shopping and all. Friday had been a half holiday, and of course when I got back the work was piled up pretty high. So high in fact that ghosts and stories and everything else vanished in a perfect tangle of figures. So as Friday they have half day holiday, Saturday by the time he come to his office, there is a lot of work for him to do. So all the ghost stories, everything got vanished from his mind. So that he got involved in his work so much. When I got off the streetcar that evening, my mind was still churning. Churning means producing. By the evening when he started back, he got into the car and still his mind is thinking. I remember now that I noticed, even from the corner, how brightly the house was illuminated. But at the time that didn't mean anything to me. I recall as I went up the steps and opened the door, I murmured, 9 times 9 in 81. So here, see, by the time he reached his house, it's totally illuminated, means so much of lighting, everything is there. He did not make it a note. He went there, he knocked the door, and 9 times is counting 81. And then Gladolia met me in the hall. So Gladolia is the servant maid. She came and she met him in the hall. Mr. Hallock, dear Mrs. Shue think you has lost. She says she done phone you this morning to be home early, but for the Lord's sake not to stop to argufy. Now, but get ready for the company and come on down. So she is telling the message what is left to him by his wife. So the servant maid is telling that today morning your wife called you asking you to come to home early. So in a bit slang way she mentioned these sentences. Some memory of a message given me by one of the clerks filtered back through my brain, but I had been haunting 3 lost receipts at the time and had completely forgotten it. So when the servant maid mentioned about the message left by his wife that day morning, the clerk brought that to his notice. But at that time, this man is very busy in searching the 3 receipts which he lost in the office. So in that mode, the message got totally vanished from his mind. He has totally forgotten the message what is left by his wife. Company, I said stupidly. What company? The Mrs. Ojua board party, said Gladolia, and rolled her eyes. She disappeared in the direction of the kitchen. So company means he did not understand. So there is some party in his house and he did not make a note of that. So servant maid said that it is the Oza board's party. Telling like that, she went into the kitchen. I must have gone upstairs and dressed and come down again, for I presently found myself standing in the dimly lighted lower hall, wearing my second best suit and a fresh shirt and collar. But I have no recollections of the process. Finally, he went into his room. He dressed himself in the one of the best suits what he has, and he reappeared there. There was a great chattering coming from our little parlor, and I went over the half-open door and peered through. So, from one of the room, he is hearing a lot of chattering, means talking. So finally he went near there and he looked into the half of the open door. He looked inside. The room was full of women, most of them elderly, whom I recognized as belonging to my wife's book club. So when he peered into the room, he observed that the room is completely filled with the women, and they are also from the book club of his wife. They were sitting in couples, and between them couple was a Oza board. So how the people in the room are sitting? They are sitting in couple, pairwise they are sitting, and in between them there is a Oza board. The mournful squeak of the legs of the moving triangle things on which they rested their fingers filled the air and mixed in with the conversation. Since there is a board, a triangle way, they are keeping their fingers on the board and they are sitting there, and they got involved in a deep conversation. I looked around for the ghost with my heart sunk down to 0. What if Lavinia should see her and go mad before my eyes? And then my wife came and tapped me on the shoulder. When he saw this all people sitting like that, immediately he searched for the ghost around, imagining if his wife sees the ghost, what the behavior, in what way she behaves. When he is imagining like that, one hand tapped him on the shoulder. He is none other than his wife. John, she said in her sweetest voice, and I noticed that her cheeks were very pink and her eyes very bright. My wife is never so pretty as when she is doing something she knows I disapprove of John dear. I know you will help us out. Mrs. William Augustus Wainwright phoned at the last moment to say that she couldn't possibly come, and that leaves poor Laura Hinkle without a partner. Now, John, I know some people can work a OSA by themselves, but Laura can't. She'll just have a horrible time unless you. So finally the narrator's wife came to him, and she's looking so pretty with a good smile on her face. So whenever she appears, whenever the narrator's wife knew that she is doing something which her husband doesn't like, she tried to pretend, means she tried to influence him. So then only she appears so pretty. When this man is thinking like that, immediately the narrator's wife mentioned to him, requesting him to give the company to one of the lady, as the another lady who should be the company to the present lady dropped at the last moment. So she requested her husband to give the company to the lady who is waiting there. Me, I gasped, me won't. But even as I spoke, she had taken my arm, and the next thing I knew was sitting with the thing on my knees and Mrs. Laura Hinkle opposite, grinning in my face like a flirtatious crocodile. So here, as he is telling no, she took him and made him sit there with the other lady, and he is in the place to play the OSA board with the other lady. I won't, I began. Now, Mr. Hallock, don't you be shy. Mrs. Laura Henkel leaned forward and shook a bony finger almost under my chin. I'm not, only I say I won't. No, it's very easy, really. You just put the tips of your fingers right here beside the tips of my fingers. And the first thing I know, she had taken my hands and was coyly holding them in the position desired. She released them presently, and the little boat began to slide around in an aimless sort of way. There seemed to be some force tugging it about. I looked at my partner first with suspicion and then with a vast relief. So before he could realize what is happening there, his wife took him and made him sit with the lady, and the lady requested him that it is not that difficult. So the lady herself took the hand of the person and made him put his finger near the tip of her finger, and they started playing. When he could realize, before he could realize, the game started there. The boat started moving. The coin started moving there. If she was doing, so he did not understand. Without applying any force, the coin is being moved. He thought that someone might have applying the force. Then all that talk about spirits. Oh, I did hope. Mrs. Laura Hinkle was cheating with the board. He is thinking that without applying any force, how the coin moves, he is thinking that this Mrs. Laura is cheating the board. Oza, dear, won't you tell us something? She coyed, and on the instant the thing seemed to take life. So immediately she started requesting the board to tell something. So then this man realized that the thing started taking life. It rushed to the upper left hand corner of the board and hovered with its front leg on the word yes. Then it began to fly around so fast that I gave up any attention to follow it. My companion was bending forward and had started to spell out loud. Traitor, traitor means anti-nation. Why? What does she mean? So before he could realize, or before the narrator could pay any attention, the coin started moving, the boat started moving towards yes, and from there one after the another letter it started showing, and finally the word came. What are the letters mentioned here? Traitor means traitor. The meaning of the word is anti-nation. So it started, and what is the meaning? What is the meaning of that? She questioned. I don't know, I said desperately. My collar felt very tight. But she must mean something. Oza dear, won't you explain yourself more fully? So she questioned, what is that? And this man replied that he doesn't know anything, and he started sweating by that time. So immediately the lady questioned the board itself to explain that fully. ASKHIM. Ask him. Ask who? Oza. I am going. I choked and tried to get up, but my fingers seemed stuck in that dreadful board and I dropped back again. So the Oza board asked, means again they got a bird to ask the Oza board. This man felt it meaningless, so he wanted to move from that place. But when he tried to move from there, he observed that his finger got stuck up to the board and helplessly he cannot move there because his finger has already stuck up to the board. He remained there itself. He sat back there itself. Apparently Miss Henkel had not heard my protest. The thing was going around faster than ever and she was reading the message silently with her brow corrugated and the light of the hunters in her pale blue eyes. Why, she says it's you, Mr. Hellock. What does she mean? Oza, won't you tell us who is talking? I groaned, but that inexorable board continued to spell. I always did hate a spelling match. Miss Henkel was again followed it aloud. Helen, Helen. She raised her voice until it could be heard at the outer end of the room. Lavinia dear, do you know anyone by the name of Helen? But the name of, I can't hear you. And my wife made her way over us between the book club's chairs. You know, the funniest thing has happened, she whispered excitedly. Someone had been trying to communicate with John through Mrs. Hunt's and Mrs. Sparkle's Oza. Someone by the name of Helen. So finally, when they are receiving these letters and they are combining into the words, this lady questioned the Oza board that who is that trying to talk to them. Finally, they gave the spelling Helen, Helen. So she shouted aloud Helen, asking the Lavinia, does she know anyone named Helen? So Lavinia came running there and finally they came to a conclusion that a person named Helen is trying to talk to them through Oza board. Why, isn't that curious? What is? Miss Henkel simpered. Someone giving the name of Helen has just been calling for your husband here. So from another board, one lady called Lavinia telling that a person named Helen is calling your husband. She wants to talk to your husband is the reply what they got from some other board.
If you like this video, please give a thumbs up. Please subscribe to our channel to get more videos on CBSE syllabus.